NBA writer insider for Bally Sports. Brandon Scoop B Robinson joins us. Scoop B, good to talk to you now that we have a series. You're very familiar with the Suns as we take a look at how this is going to play out. How shocked are you that we have this matchup in the finals?
I don't know that I'm shocked. I think if anything, the only reason why it's shock value to many people is because many people expected for the Los Angeles Lakers to represent the Western Conference, and that wasn't in the cards, unfortunately, with Anthony Davis's injury. But this is what I will tell you. It's great for anybody who was a Suns faithful. The last time the Phoenix Suns were in the NBA Finals, the gas prices per gallon were $1.11, and Janet Jackson had the number one single on the Billboard Top Hit 100.
Why did they turn it around? Because I've never been a big Sarver guy, never was. But, I'm just a national sports talk host. I have different opinions on different owners. And now all of a sudden he's getting credit for good hires and management that turned this roster around. And that's what happens with owners and sports teams. Sometimes they're up and down. Talk about the owner and how he was able to take a step back and start making better decisions.
Well, I think Sarver gets credit for hiring James Jones, who became the NBA's Executive of the Year this season. And arguably, Monty Williams didn't get the award, but was definitely a top two in the NBA's Head Coaching of the Year. Went to Tom Thibodeau of the New York Knicks. They had a great season as well, all things considering. But I think as much as many people look at Chris Paul being the icing on a cake that was already cooked or were already baked with the likes of DeAndre Ayton and Devin Booker, I'll say this to you. Many people point to the bubble last season in Orlando where the Suns won a plethora of games, and they went from being the opening act in a concert to being the main attraction now in the NBA Finals a year later. But Chris Paul, really and truly was the icing on the cake because many people doubted him over the last couple of years, going from, the Houston Rockets to the Oklahoma City Thunder. We talk about all those playoff big heart-breaking losses in the playoffs. And now we're here now. It's a redemptive story of such. But I also think that when you look at the Phoenix Suns, I made the 93 comparison to the Suns team. You can actually check out my article at Bally Sports that dropped today. But when you look at the Phoenix Suns in 1993, I'll add, the big thing that they did was they added Charles Barkley in the offseason. And comparatively in 2021, they all added Chris Paul in the offseason. And, that's a great reason why they're in the position they're in. But job's not done. They still got to play a Milwaukee Bucks team that has a Giannis Antetokounmpo that's, day-to-day with his injury.
A great follow at Scoop B, Brandon Scoop B Robinson, kind enough to join us, also host of the Scoop B radio podcast. It's interesting. I want to stay with Chris Paul because I saw him play a couple of years ago in Oklahoma City, and he liked the culture. He liked the team. And you look at his career and the fact that David Stern blocked that move to the Lakers, and then he goes to Houston, and that team was very good at times, but I think toxic in the background. Oklahoma City was a place, it seemed like they were the only ones who wanted and believed in him. And then he found the fountain of youth again. What did he do to roll back the clock? And I know he was injured here and he went into COVID protocol, but other than that, he's become a different player, and I think he's going to extend his career on the back end, and a world championship here will just add to his Hall of Fame legacy.
Well, you mentioned fountain of youth and Chris Paul being in Phoenix. I'll add Ponce de Leon may want to have a word with Chris Paul because I think he's got one up on him finding the fountain of youth in Arizona. When you look at Arizona, particularly those who play for the Phoenix Suns, Shaq enjoyed a level of fluidity playing in Phoenix, and so did Grant Hill and a buddy of mine in Tim Thomas, who helped the Phoenix Suns, I believe, in 2007 defeat the Los Angeles Lakers in round one after I think being down 1-3, I believe it was, and hitting a big shot to kind of go toe-to-toe, with the Lakers. But I'll add this with Chris Paul. Phoenix has always done well with advanced medicine and getting guys who are a little bit older and kind of ushering in a great retirement tour, if you will. But I do think that Chris had a lot to prove. You mentioned the Los Angeles Lakers trade that was blocked by the late David Stern. I think you're now seeing what would have been had Chris Paul been a Laker, and I feel like there was a level of reparations that the league tried to give Los Angeles by sending them to the Clippers. But as we both know, the Clippers are not the Lakers, and the Lakers are not the Clippers. But I think that when you look at what Chris Paul is doing, he's aging like fine wine at 36 years old. He turned 36 in May. And I also think that series against the Lakers in round one gave them a bit of confidence. And I think it's just a coming of age at the right time. Devin Booker clicking on all cylinders. DeAndre Ayton doing what he's got to do. I mean, I think not just those guys. You look at Cameron Payne. You look at Jay Crowder, who I think has been a fan favorite and a guy that's really bounced around the league a bit and has, great experience playing on championship teams, playing for the Cavs, and even being on experienced teams or talented teams like the Utah Jazz. And it's all coming together at the right time. And I also think you look at I just think they have a lot to prove. You've seen tragedy with Monty Williams, with his family, and it's a coming of age. Another storyline that I think people should be paying more attention to on both sides is one in Mike Budenholzer as well as Monty Williams, who both come out of the Greg Popovich coaching tree, who are going head-to-head in the NBA Finals.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Scoop B joins us. I wasn't going to bring that up, but I'm happy you brought that up because, I've covered the Spurs over the years going to all those finals on radio, and I remember Budenholzer got his opportunity. He's a hell of a coach. If he didn't get by the Nets, he was going to get fired. I mean, everyone said that to a man. He was getting fired. And now all of a sudden he should be safe, right? He's in the NBA Finals. He's 4 wins away from winning a title, and he's getting a lot more heat than Monty would ever get. And Monty had a much easier road in this postseason because, I'll bring it up, there's been some stars out in the opponents that Phoenix has gone up against, and they haven't been pressed to the limit the way that the Bucks have.
Yeah, the Bucks are definitely a rugged team. And I think when you look at round one in the playoffs for the Bucks, I think they finished that series early against the Miami Heat, Jimmy Butler and those guys, which gave them they swept, which gave them more time. And I think as much as you saw, I think the only mistakes that you really saw with the Bucks in round one was game one, where they went into overtime and Chris Middleton took control early and often. And in the overtime series, did what he needed to do. A gentleman like Bryn Forbes came to play. And Bobby Portis, OG Bobby Portis from Milwaukee has been a magnificent gem in that Milwaukee Bucks system. But I'll add this: I will share that in my reporting going back to around Labor Day weekend, Chris Paul was on Giannis Antetokounmpo's list of free agents, or not free agents, rather trade pieces that he was looking to add to that team when he ended up signing that extension around Labor Day. Drew Holiday was also on that list, as well as James Harden. And when you look back at that reporting that I did back in the fall, James Harden is no longer a Houston Rocket. He's a Net. Drew Holiday went from New Orleans to Milwaukee. And Chris Paul was on that list too, was now in Phoenix. And it's interesting to see now where Drew Holiday and Chris Paul is. But I think that adding Drew Holiday was the secret to the sauce because he's able to defend both guard spots on the floor. And also Chris Middleton has stepped up in big games. And I think that was kind of a remix to what happened in the playoffs in round one last year, the bubble, when Giannis went down. And Giannis went down, and Miami ended up winning that series and going to the finals. And in order for the Bucks to be successful, they're going to eventually need Giannis. And Mike Budenholzer is definitely the key to start that engine in the car. But I don't want to ramble, but I will also say that while the Milwaukee Bucks were able to get past the Atlanta Hawks in the playoffs, Phoenix Suns are no Atlanta Hawks team, and it's going to be 6 or 7 games in my estimation.
Brandon Robinson joins us, Scoop B. Last one. Who's going to guard Middleton? Because Middleton, without Giannis at 100%, is going to be the alpha. And Ayton protecting the rim on the back end, where I believe Middleton wants to get to the front of the rim. He wants to get to the free throw line if he can, but he's going to be a mid-range jump shooter, and he's going to shoot a lot of threes. Who is going to defend him and be the guy who has to slow him down?
I think it's going to be a plethora of guys that are going to go at him. I wanted to use the word smorgasbord in context to one of my favorite movies, Meet the Parents, when he prayed and said, "Welcome or thank you for this beautiful smorgasbord that you prepared." Comparatively, when you look at the Phoenix Suns, I think it's going to be a smorgasbord of guys on that team who are going to have to guard Chris Middleton, because I don't think it's just one guy. I think you're going to see Ayton at times, and I'm going to tell you what, and the guy who's in Ayton who's going to get a big payday, he's one of the best two-way players in the NBA at the center position. I can see him at his size and weight having to guard Middleton in key plays. I also look to Jay Crowder to be that stopper. I don't think it's just going to be one particular guy. I think it's going to be a multiple bunch of guys, because I think if Giannis does come back, I do think Ayton's going to have his hands full, guarding Giannis as well. So I don't know that there's going to be one stopper. I think there's going to be multiple stoppers. I'm interested to see what Cam Johnson's health is going to be looking like moving forward. But I definitely think Middleton at times has played like Michael Jordan, and Giannis has exponentially played like Scottie Pippen at times. I think for as many people that think that it's Giannis's team on paper and the box score at times, it is Chris Middleton doing what he needs to do and taking over. So he is a problem that someone is going to have to pay attention to. I even see Devin Booker at stretches having to guard him as well.
Scoop B, good to talk to you. Enjoy the series. Thanks for the analysis. Really appreciate it.
Gentlemen, thank you for the opportunity to be myself.